What an opening. Can you think of a sequel that sucks you back in like this does?
And this film is going to be bigger, bolder, and louder than the last. Andy Serkis as Gollum is lightning in a bottle.
Yes.
I don't think this works with anybody else.
He told him to go away, and the way he goes, precious, gone, smile is free.
Yeah, it's the best I got. I'm sorry.
It's good.
It's fine.
For death and glory. For Rohan.
Right there. Being a king for people. Not for death and glory. No, for your people.
The horn of Helm Hammerhands shall sound in the deep one last time. Let this be the hour that we draw swords together. Fell deeds await. Now for wrath, now for ruin, and the Red Dawn. That was a nice break. A lot of great hospitality from the hobbits, but I gotta say, I am happy to get back. You've punched Tatooine into the Navi computer?
Yes.
Bypass the compressor.
Konnor, I'm not stupid. Watch this.
Yeah, nice work. Yeah, well.
Hey! See you, Middle Earth. Hello, Dune Sea. Is he supposed to be doing that?
Mr. White Wizard, sir, I have your food. It's a long walk.
Here we go again.
In my defense, how was I supposed to know that there was a giant tower jutting out of the ground? I mean, what are the chances there's another one? Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Dune Sea, a show normally about that galaxy far, far away. But today, we're still venturing through Middle Earth. My name's Seth.
And I'm Konnor. Brother, have you slept?
No. I had to watch the extended cut of Two Towers.
Fair enough. That was a long movie.
It is.
It's like 4 hours.
It's a lot of time.
Yeah, but hey, it's pretty good. 4 hours though,
It
right?
is. It's a good time.
It's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you just keep that under there, probably.
It's tasked to me. Mine. My own.
Okay, that's fine. We'll just move on into the rest of the show. So yeah, welcome back, everybody. Hopefully, we're enjoying our time out in Middle Earth now that we're stuck at the pinnacle of Orthanc. Luckily, we got this back room in the Falcon to hang out in for a little while.
Yes.
While we get some things sorted.
Mm-hmm.
But the Two Towers. What are the Two Towers, Seth?
I mean, there's lots of towers in Middle Earth.
What are the Two Towers?
Are we talking about the movie or the books?
The movie.
Movie. Orthanc and Barad-dûr.
Yes. In the book, it's Minas Morgul
Mm-hmm.
and Orthanc. It's
And then,
pretty interesting.
Then you've also got Minas Tirith as well that I think
there's
could be there. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some speculation as to, because Tolkien has kind of flip-flopped on what the meaning of the Two Towers was.
Mhm.
I've read some accounts that Tolkien was not super fond of the title of the book. And I'm like, didn't you title it?
Yeah. Well, didn't it get sped to the press or something like that? That it was
maybe. I'm not
that it
sure. I
was
know
just
he had
kinda
a lot of issues with.
Yeah, that it was he just kind of tacked that on.
Right.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting. I mean, the extended edition last week was maybe just above 3 hours, right? Like 3
This
hours.
past, it was 340 or something like that.
Okay, so this one's not that much longer then, is it? It's long, but
It
not
is
that
long.
much.
Yeah.
It's a long sit through for sure.
Yeah.
And I did make sure I watched the extended edition this time. The only reason I didn't watch the extended of Fellowship is just because time is hard to come by these days.
Yes.
But yeah, so last week we decided to, in the spirit of Lord of the Rings, in the spirit of our good friend J.R.R. Tolkien, if we can say that, we've done some written reviews in place of our 1 minute reviews.
Mhm.
So last week you went first. I'll go ahead and go first this week.
Okay.
Review of the Two Towers, because really it deserves a little more than 1 minute, doesn't it?
Yes.
The Two Towers draws you back in from the very first moment. We learn that a character we mourned in the previous film, Gandalf the Grey, did not simply fall to his doom with the Balrog, deep in the mines of Moria. Instead, he flung himself from the ledge with determination, grasping his sword to fend off the foul demon and aid the grieving fellowship. From this moment, two things become clear. Gandalf's fate may not be as sealed as we once believed, and this film is going to be bigger, bolder, and louder than the last. The Two Towers follows Sam and Frodo as they continue their quest to destroy the One Ring, now joined by the ever-mischievous Gollum. Meanwhile, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli pursue their quest to rescue Merry and Pippin, who have found themselves in the care of the Ents. Along the way, they make their way to Rohan, as Saruman launches the first assault against the world of men. The war for the ring is truly about to begin. While Two Towers is a technical marvel, a visual feast, and a world-building triumph that surpasses even the first film, it doesn't quite capture that patient, character-focused structure that made the Fellowship of the Ring so special, at least in my opinion. Perhaps this is due to the challenges of adapting the novel from page to screen, but The Two Towers often feels like it's doing a little too much heavy lifting, with a few unnecessary detours to keep the audience engaged. And now I'm looking at you, Aragorn in the Warg. Despite the challenges Jackson and his crew faced in adapting this literary masterpiece from the in the early 2000s, what they achieved was done with care, heart, and integrity. Although I may not agree with all the decisions made during the adaptation process, I commend Peter Jackson for keeping Tolkien's voice at the forefront and transforming a long, complex, beloved book into a cinematic masterpiece, and bringing the world of Tolkien to a brand new audience that will continue to enjoy them for decades to come. This film culminates in the greatest fantasy battle ever put to screen. Yet the climax of the story isn't the clashing of swords, the flying of arrows, or the cheering of soldiers as the battle is won. Instead, it is the soft words of Samwise Gamgee reminding us why we fight in the first place. There's good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and it's worth fighting for.
So much more wordy than I am.
I am a bit more wordy, indeed.
Yeah. Okay. I actually started my my review the same way I started my last one, because I feel like that's my thesis statement for all of these. So I'm like, I might as well just, start them all the same way. What can I honestly say that hasn't been said about this film? As we said a couple weeks ago, they truly don't make them like this anymore. I do really think this is a once-in-a-lifetime film. This is a beautiful blend of practical effects, CGI where needed, and brilliant filmmaking that help capture that lightning in a bottle. What makes Two Towers stand out amongst the others is the storytelling. Our fellowship has been broken, but that doesn't stop these characters from coming into their own and becoming heroes in their own right. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the newcomers that help set our fellowship along these paths. Theoden and Rohan help show Aragorn what it'll take to become king. The Ents help Merry and Pippin find their courage. Faramir helps show that there might still be some good left in the world, and Gandalf the White truly begins to make his presence felt. All these great character moments, mixed with New Zealand's beautiful landscape shots, really help bring Middle-earth to life in this one.
Very true.
Mm-hmm.
And we do get an excellent bit of that New Zealand landscape in the very first moments of this film.
Yes, I wanted to talk about the beginning, before we really get started.
I mean, that really is the two towers of this movie, isn't it? It's the beginning and the end. That's the best two moments of this movie, the opening and the closing. So maybe that's how we should structure our conversation.
I guess so.
Between the two towers.
All I have to say is like, what an opening. Like, can you think of a sequel that sucks you back in like this does? Like, they took one of the best parts of the previous movie and just pulls you right into it with a different angle and everything like that. I mean, kind of like how I said with the whole Frodo reading in the woods and you hear Gandalf singing, and then in Fellowship, and it's like that, we're back, baby. Like, it's when Frodo wakes up from that crazy shot, that wide angle of Gandalf and the Balrog falling, and then like he wakes up, and then you get that title card with that Howard Shore music. Yeah. Where it's just like, oh my gosh, we are back, and we haven't missed a beat. Like, this still feels good. This And I like that almost no time has passed. It seems like it's just like
it's right away.
It is. It is.
What I like about it the most, as far as the opening, I mean, obviously seeing Gandalf in this triumphant attacking the demon, because when we see him last, the fly, you fools, that's almost like it's a sacrifice, but it's an acceptance. Like he's about to die.
Yeah.
And he's telling them, hey, I'm taking this so you can go.
Yeah.
But now we see it from his perspective where no, it's not.
He had to vanquish his foe.
Yeah. It's not so much that he's just falling because he can't grip the ledge. No, he's throwing himself from the ledge so he can finish off the demon to give the Fellowship time to leave.
Yeah.
That's so much cooler. But I love that we get both sides of that. Like in Fellowship, we get the moment with the Fellowship to grieve, because that's what they think Gandalf did, is that he was spent and he had no more energy to hang on or climb over the ledge. He just falls.
Yeah.
And even that's what Aragorn says when he sees him as the White.
You fell.
You fell. Yeah. But also, I mean, yeah, you're right. It sucks you right back in, and it tells you what kind of movie this is going to be from the get-go.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning of Fellowship, you have Gandalf singing, and the character of Gandalf introduces you in tone to both films perfectly. In Fellowship, you get more of that warm-hearted, the more patient, as I mentioned earlier, that very methodical, character-driven. We're going to get a lot of those moments in that movie. Here, no, this is going to be loud. It's going to be boisterous. We're going to war. The War of the Ring has truly begun. And then it is capped off with Frodo, waking up. And now we see, again, it's the same thing. Like in Fellowship, Frodo goes to meet Gandalf. You're late. And they have a bit of a fun conversation there. And now Frodo's remembering Gandalf in kind of a horrific way. Yeah. He wakes up in a start, and his eyes are baggy, and he looks like he's gotten barely any sleep. The ring is weighed on him heavily, and our characters are in much different places going into this movie. I think it's a perfect way to get us right into it, but also informing on on the characters' journeys. What a cool way to do it.
Just good stuff.
It's great. So the opening, fantastic, obviously. Yeah. Last week we kind of talked about all 9 members of the Fellowship with a couple of honorable mentions, equaling about 9 to 11 scenes with their honorable mentions. Because really, like last week, we can't just sit here and be like, that was cool, but wasn't that cool?
Yeah. Oh, this was awesome.
Wasn't Helm's Deep when they were throwing the spears and shooting the arrows and they blew up the miniature? That was cool. Yeah. We could do that. Don't get me wrong. And that'd be fun. But like last week, we're going to try to break this down in a similar way. Yeah. So there's a lot of factions that are introduced because this is the beginning of the War of the Ring.
2 towers, if you will. Yes. 2 towering factions.
There are the 2 towers. Those are 2 factions. And there's a lot of others that are introduced. So we're going to kind of go through each faction and some of the new characters that are introduced while checking in with the Fellowship along the way.
Fellowship.
Yes, the Fellowship. And kind of breaking down basically just one scene with them. And that'll give us the opportunity to kind of talk about their character and where we're at. Yeah. So I guess to begin, let's talk about those 2 towers. Yeah. And I think the best way to talk about it is just from a line from our friend Saruman the White. So in a great moment toward the beginning of the film, like we see Saruman with his palantir. And he says, "The world is changing. Who now has the strength to stand against the armies of Isengard and Mordor? To stand against the might of Sauron and Saruman and the union of the 2 towers?" What I love the most about this, it feels like a perversion of Galadriel's.
It's exactly
opening.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. The world has changed. I feel it in the water.
I don't know why. I don't know why it's not in the movie. Have you ever heard that on YouTube? Christopher Lee saying the One Ring speech.
No, I don't.
Yeah, dude, it's sick. It's like, great. Man, that should be in the movie somewhere. Yeah, that he's reading the One Ring inscription.
I'll have to look that up. That sounds great. Yeah. So he continues, "Together, my lord Sauron, we shall rule this Middle Earth." And here's where we start to get a look into Sauron's character and the central conflict for this faction, because there's a lot of conflicts going on in this movie between various different factions. "The old world shall burn in the fires of industry. The forests will fall. A new order will rise. We will drive the machine of war with the sword and the spear and the iron fists of the orc. we have only to remove those who oppose us. And then you see him kind of standing between one of the factions of men, which I forget what faction this is.
Those are Dunland.
Yes, thank you. And saying like, the horsemen drove your men to the hills.
Mm-hmm.
They took your land and take it back. Go burn every village.
Yeah.
But that line about that the old world will burn in the fires of industry. When you first see Isengard and Fellowship, it's kind of like it's a beautiful little park area with Orthanc kind of jutting out, and also like Saruman did not build Orthanc, by the way. Like that was there. Yeah. It was like an old construction, almost like Numenor, right? Numenorian construction.
All I know is it was either, I think Rohan gave it to him that he asked, and they gave it to him.
It was a very old structure, and like nobody knew how it was built, basically, in the lore. So that was not something he built. And so these gardens and stuff, like the gardens of Saruman, and the fact that he rips it all down, to build his factories, I think is really quite something. And it also is a reflection, I think, of another sort of self-insert for Tolkien, because Tolkien hated modernity and the machine. Yeah. And he loved the wilderness and the nature. And like, if you read the books, he almost takes too long describing nature sometimes, because he loved it so much.
It's a lot.
And where once stood growing hills, now smoke and steel. And he witnessed that in his life many times. And I think to kind of cap this off, who puts it better than Treebeard later? Well, a faction that will oppose him, as we'll get to later.
Yeah.
There was a time when Saruman would walk through my woods, but now he has a mind of metal and wheels. And I think it's interesting. Think about those two words he used, metal and wheels. He's not using like fire and smoke, things you would associate with evil, because that's not what Treebeard is associating with evil. He's associating the machine, wheel and metal. Yeah. And I think that's a really interesting look into the mind of the Ent and how Saruman is usurping the old world. So that's one of our factions we have to contend with is Saruman, because Saruman is trying to choke the world of men. And first up will be Rohan. So that's really interesting. Yeah. But I guess before we get to Rohan, the other side is Mordor, right? Which we don't get a ton of in this movie.
No, hardly at all. I mean, Nazgul are present.
Yeah.
It's basically, we know they're,
the Nazgul.
Yes, that they're, well,
or excuse me,
the Felbeasts.
Yeah, the Felbeasts.
But, and then like, we know that like they're attacking Osgiliath. So, but that's about it.
Yeah, you get pieces of it. You get to see like the Easterlings and Sauron.
Yes, he's gathering his forces that like, the Easterlings and the, it's all right. The Southerners as well.
They're prepping you for that third act.
Exactly.
Like, things are about to go down.
Yes.
It's like,
oh my gosh. There's great beasts. Mumakil. Yeah. And Oliphants. Yes. Yeah. They're all being brought. Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
It's interesting because like, you see a lot of the might of Isengard in this movie, but it's like, no, Sauron's forces still are growing. He is that shadow that is still growing, that it's like, there is so much more that you have no idea that's coming. And I do like that this movie just kind of spoon feeds you that, where it's like, dude, you see several different factions. You don't just see orcs. It's like, oh, he's gathering all kinds of people to fight this war for him.
We continually check in on that. Like one of the first scenes we get of Gandalf and Aragorn when when Gandalf rejoins the company. Yeah. Is he wakes up and he goes to join Gandalf in this beautiful shot.
Yeah. Oh, with the fire.
Looking to the east. And you just see it in the distance. And we see a similar shot, several times throughout the movie where you just see the shadow growing in the east and the fires and all of this, where Sauron is growing his forces. Yeah. And I mean, that's what we see with Gondor. We'll talk about them in a moment, but that's what Gondor's doing. They're holding Sauron back. Yeah. So while we're seeing Rohan vend off against Saruman, there's a whole other war that's going on the Eastern Front. Yep. And they're worried about being choked out by Saruman. Because you look at this map, I know we have some of it obscured, but like that's the issue is like Sauron's over there. Saruman's kind of in the middle over there. Yeah.
They're closing in on them together. Yeah.
Yeah. And they would be a horrible force to be reckoned with. Yeah. And another thing like this movie doesn't really touch on a ton is that Saruman is really working for himself. It's like he's only
he's in league
he's working for Sauron to his own end. Yes. But Sauron also knows that. Yeah. He knows that Saruman is treacherous. But how far has Saruman fallen? I think that's another interesting theme in these movies is that like he was the white.
He was.
Like the pure, you know,
Yeah.
he was the,
in the books, he was split into many colors, which makes
Saruman
sense.
of many colors. Yes.
Ring bearer. He built himself his own little ring. I don't even, that like he was trying to, if that's not the fall of man, I don't know what is. Where it's like he's trying to be something that he's not.
I think, I think Saruman's an interesting character. So like,
oh, I think he's great.
Like what? I don't know that he's the fall, trying to be the fall of man. Cause like what?
You don't think so?
I don't know.
Like, cause like, what's the big first fall, like trying to be like God, trying to be a God.
Yeah. I think that's more Morgoth than Sauron though. I think Saruman represents more, at least in my opinion, I think more that industry, like letting greed maybe. Like he was power hungry and he wanted it. I don't think Saruman wants to be like a god. Maybe he does. Yeah. I think he's just greed and power.
Yeah. Well, he wants to rebuild as well too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And cutting down that old world. But I just think it's coming from a character like Saruman, I think is so interesting. Like a wizard, like a white wizard. And he's the one bringing in the industry. Yeah. And burning down forests and stuff.
As Treebeard says, a wizard should know better.
Yeah. I think that's such an interesting read on the, on that character and that faction. Cause it's like, wow, and Gandalf is such a great mirror to that, I think. So, okay. So the chokehold is on the world of men, and so the first faction of the world of men, we have Rohan. Yeah. And Rohan and the Rohirrim are very interesting because they're not, I think the takeaway, because I've heard a lot of people, they're gung-ho about these guys.
Oh yeah.
And I've never been too crazy about Rohan. I love their theme. Yeah. I'll say that. And I've always loved that scene. Riders of Rohan, what news from the mark? And Éomer, they surround. I would cut off your head, dwarf, if your head stood but a little further off the ground.
You die before your stroke fell.
Yeah. It's so many great interactions. But I think the takeaway for Rohan is that they're the common man. Like Gondor is like the chosen people, if you will. Like if I could say that. Because Aragorn, he's like got magic blood, basically. He's
Númenorian.
He's the Númenorian. Like he's going to lead Gondor. Like they've got the White City. So they're special, right? Yeah. They've got all of their inheritance, if you will. Yeah. Rohan, though, they're the common people.
Just guys.
They're just dudes. Yeah. They got their cities are simple. Edoras is simple, which by the way reminds me of Whiterun for our Skyrim fans. As soon as you see that, it reminds me, it's like, there it is. There's your Vasker. There's
well, I mean, they're very Viking-like.
Yeah. They have a lot of Norse influence, I think. But I think that's the takeaway, is that even the common man can stand up to evil. Yeah. And I like that that's the contrast, is like all of these different, even in the factions of men, they're so different. Like Gondorians if that's what they're called, are different than people from Rohan. And they're different than, the Easterlings, and they're different from, you can go down the list. Yeah. I think it's represented more than anyone in Theoden King. Yeah. And we get just a great first scene with Theoden. I love, we see that he's old. He's like, oh man, he's real old. Yeah. Like deathbed.
Looking old. Rough. Yeah.
But he's like
otherworldly old.
You have Grima worm tongue, whispering in his ear.
With his leechcraft. Yes.
Yeah, just always whispering, and getting the king to cast out Éomer. Yeah. And he's like, and Wormtongue's also got a thing for Éowyn, his niece. Not Wormtongue's niece, but the king's niece. Yeah. And also Theodred just died. Yes. And he's like, the king doesn't care. Yeah. So you don't get a really good look at King Theoden to the start. But then, in one of my favorite scenes, what remains of our fellowship, Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas, and now Gandalf. Yeah. The white. Yeah. But he's wearing his gray cloak.
Over it, yes.
And they even call him at one point the Grey Pilgrim.
The Grey Pilgrim.
And he comes in and to Edoras and goes into the king's hall, and they take away their weapons, and they're about to take the wizard's staff. It's like, you wouldn't deprive an old man of his walking stick, would you? And then I love it right after that, Legolas is helping him in. Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah, oh yeah. He's got his shoulder.
Yeah. He's like, walking in. And
Yeah.
of course, then, because Theoden is being controlled by Saruman.
Basically, yeah.
And they're like just taunting Gandalf because they're like, look at this guy.
Yeah.
We knew something happened to you. You barely survived your encounter with the Balrog.
Yeah.
You're wounded. And that's a great piece of just like, they don't spell that out. It's not like Grima or Saruman says that.
Yeah.
Like, you almost died in the mines of Moria. Now here you are. But I love that that's just a bit of subtext to Gandalf walking in looking wounded and looking weak.
Yeah.
To throw Saruman off his game.
Why should I welcome you, Gandalf Stormcrow?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then throwing off his cloak and it's
Yes.
just blinding light.
Yeah.
And then he casts out Saruman like a demon.
Yes.
Oh, and it kind of also, and I'll talk about this a little more in a minute, but nailing home Gandalf's Christ-like nature.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, he goes right off of being resurrected, coming back from the dead,
Yeah.
to casting out demons.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
I mean, it is cool. I mean, I like too that like when he's finally cast out that he's been split open on his forehead.
Oh, I've never noticed that.
What? Really?
No.
Yeah,
I
where
missed
his
that.
yeah,
Wow.
where the staff touches him. Yeah, as he
Huh.
comes up,
Can't believe I missed that.
he has like blood trickling down his face.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I also love that that's when Saruman is like, that's the first time he's been bested by Gandalf.
It's true.
Gandalf the White.
Gandalf the fool.
Yeah. So one of my absolute favorite scenes, and it's followed up by one of my favorite quotes. And it's a quote that I've used actually in our conversations before. So Theoden now he looks much more, he's got a lot more vitality.
Well, he's youthful. I think
Yes.
that's one of the best transitions I've ever seen like
He looks
that
so good.
in a film. Like, I mean, like it is flawless how he transforms. Do you think that, they did way more than a crossfade. Like they had to have,
I couldn't tell you how they did it.
yeah. I mean, it's impressive looking.
It looks very good.
Yeah.
So he stands up and he's still a little weak.
Yeah.
And Gandalf tells him, your fingers would remember your old strength better if they grasped your sword.
Mm-hmm.
And if you remember, I had just read that moment in Two Towers last year
When we were thinking about starting the
when
show.
we were thinking about starting the show and we went out and filmed something because I was really nervous about like, I haven't filmed something in so long.
Yeah. You were pretty pessimistic about
I
it.
was really pessimistic. And then I had said that quote about like
holding your camera.
about holding my camera because I was like, man, my fingers remembered my old strength better now that I've grasped my camera. And I think that's so interesting. It's like, I don't know. There is something very, I almost can't put it into words, but like I felt that very deeply in that moment last year because, and like I say that half jokingly, but also I really did mean that because I was very pessimistic about shooting at the time. Like I didn't feel like I had it in me anymore. And I was like, it's been so long, but you kept hammering on me to like, let's do it.
Yeah.
It was like, as soon as we started doing it, it was like, wow, like riding a bike,
Yeah.
And
You were having fun.
it was, no,
That's
it
all.
was
Yeah.
great. And then we started the show because I had a lot of my confidence back.
Yeah.
And I think that's also really cool is that not only did Gandalf drive out the demon, I mean, he drove out the demon, but he gave Theoden his life, his vitality back.
Restored
And
his
then-
youth, essentially.
and then encouraged
Spirit.
him. And he doesn't just leave, he walks alongside him. Now he's his advisor. He's now on his shoulder. And to like, again, continue to connect him to that Christ-like figure. It's like now Gandalf is there with him.
Yeah.
He cast out the demon, but now, and like one of the following scenes immediately where Grima Wormtongue sat, Gandalf the White now sits. And like, if that's not another just massive allegory for how Christ is, I think that's so
Takes
cool.
that spot.
Yeah. I love that. I thought that's one of my favorite scenes in the book, one of my favorite scenes in the movie. And I think they handled it so well. And like you said, the effects.
Yeah.
Like,
It's very well done. Yes. And
so good. I just can't.
I do want to give a little bit of love to Wormtongue. I think that he's awesome. I like
The
how
performance is great.
Oh, that's what I was getting at more than anything is I think he does a great job. And then I love the whole Theoden right after that tries to kill him and Aragorn steadies his hand. Aragorn tries to help him up. And he just spits in his hand and then just get out of my way. And then just, gets out of there. Good stuff. Anyway.
Yeah. And even Grima has a tiny bit of a turn.
Oh yeah. That I was going to say that like, I'm sure
More so in the book, but
yeah. Well, you see it in the movie when he's, when Saruman's talking to all the Uruk-hai. You see that one tear go down his face when he's talking about that, like the the time of men is over. Like Grima knows, wow, I hope I've picked the right side. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's a recurring theme in these movies and in Tolkien's writings that I love, is that everybody can kind of turn and turn back. Like even Saruman, he gets opportunities to.
Mm-hmm. They want to. Well, even in the movie, we'll get to it in the next movie. Yeah,
this is something I just admitted to Seth before. Maybe I shouldn't admit this on air, but Return of the King is the only one I've not watched the extended edition. I've never seen the extended edition of Return of the King.
Uh-huh.
So I know that they do Saruman's death at the beginning of Return of the King, which is way different than the book, obviously.
Yeah.
Because there's this whole scouring of the Shire and whatnot. So I am curious to see how they handle that in next week, because I'll watch the extended edition for next week. But I love that in Tolkien's writings, that everybody has an opportunity for redemption. Like Boromir could be redeemed. Even though this is an invention of the movie, Faramir could be redeemed.
Mm-hmm.
Like Gollum could be redeemed.
Could be.
Some people take that redemption. They take that path. Other people don't, though. And I think that that's very real. Some people, even if they do fall down the dark path, some people do find their way back. But some don't.
You can always turn back.
Yeah.
I think Gollum does turn back for a moment.
For a little bit.
Yeah.
So before we get too far deep, there's another member of, a pretty big member, I think, of Rohan.
Yes. I fear neither death nor pain. What do you fear, my lady? A cage. To stay behind bars until use in old age, except all the chance of Valar has gone beyond the recall or desire. Eowyn, Shield Maiden of Rohan.
Shield Maiden of Rohan. What do you have to say about the Shield Maiden of Rohan, Seth?
So, I think that she's fine. I feel bad that I just don't, I think it's the love triangle that kind of irks me a little bit about where I'm just why is this here? And I feel bad that she has to get pulled into that, because I know in the next movie, she does some very important things, and that's very, very cool. And this kind of sets up that. But I feel like, unfortunately, a lot of this movie, she's just kind of pining for Aragorn a little bit. Yes, and it just is. But I know that it will get better in the next movie. And I know that she's going to step up with her and Mary are going to step up even more.
Yeah.
So, but it is a good introduction to the character. I like all the little tidbits that we get about Theoden taking her in and everything, and that she holds true to herself. She's in a pretty tough spot when the movies open up, but she holds true to herself. She doesn't give in to all the darkness that is kind of overtaken her family and everything. That the next thing you know, when the light comes, she's right there, ready. Yeah.
That's pretty,
Mm-hmm.
I like Eowyn. Like I said, like you said, rather, she doesn't have a ton to do. It's kind of like Merry and Pippin from Fellowship.
Yeah.
She gets set up.
It's almost set up.
Next movie.
Yes. And I will say that when she's really upset at Helm's Deep, that she's like, I want to fight. And I'm like, girl, if something happens to Theoden, I mean, who do you think these people are going to be looking to? You. So, I mean, something can't happen to you too. That's the whole thing, that they're trying to ensure the survival of the Rohirrim and man, really. So I wouldn't be getting too upset about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with you about the love triangle. That's always been an aspect of this movie that I
found a little weak,
confusing at best.
Because I just feel that it's why is, I get being nice, but at the same time, I feel like he's leading her on a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little strange.
Mm-hmm.
I will say the extended edition does it a little bit better. You get a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I've never liked that. It's like, Aragorn, brother, you got an immortal elf chick back home. What are you doing?
Yeah, well, she gave her.
I was about to say, she's gonna not be immortal for you.
Yeah, she gave her immortality for you. It's what are we doing? What are we doing? It is kind of crazy to think about too. When that conversation that they're having, where it's you can't be 60, and about how old he is and everything. Yeah. And then my wife and I were backtracking on how old he had to have been to have fought with her grandfather. It's he's probably in his 20s. It's just really weird to think about that. Like that's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that that's in the extended edition though. It adds a lot of context.
Yeah, it's great. And then the soup is the soup in the extended. Yes. So
Did you not watch the extended on this
No,
one?
I did watch the extended. I just haven't watched the regular version in I don't know how long.
Yeah.
So, but yes, I like the soup scene.
The soup scene.
Yes,
funny. The uncomfortably long pause. That's why this movie's 4 hours. It's because he's just.
It's good.
And then he, like,
And then
burns his hand.
yes, because trying to pour it out. And it's just, it's good.
That's funny.
Yeah. It's good.
So before we move on from Rohan, there's one last scene from Theoden that's really great. So Theodred, we mentioned that where he loses his son. Or when he comes back, he gets to finally mourn his son. And there's a great moment where they put his son to rest, and Éowyn sings this lovely ballad about Theodred. And then it's just Theoden left and Gandalf. And he says, in tears in his eye, Bernard Hill really delivers a great performance. No parent should have to bury their child. And Gandalf replies, he was strong in life. His spirit will find the way to the halls of your fathers.
What I think is cool about this is just who delivers that line. Because where did Gandalf come from? Or it could just come back from?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I just think that's super powerful that he's the one that delivers that line, not Hema or Gambling or Éowyn or Aramir. That
it's not someone who just means well, trying
exactly.
to wish.
We're just trying to make you feel better.
No, it's like Gandalf who
exactly
again he's the Christ-like character. If anybody knows,
yes,
it's him.
It's like he'll be okay.
Yeah,
and I'm just kind of like, it's awesome. It's awesome.
So let's talk a little bit about the White.
Yeah,
let's check in. Let's check in with one member of the Fellowship.
Okay,
we've mentioned him for a moment,
a couple times. Yeah,
Gandalf.
Mm-hmm.
So I adore the scene when he comes back.
Oh,
so the setup for this in the book is really fun.
You fell.
I did a terrible job last week about not talking about the book, so I'm not going to make any promises this week like I did last week.
Yeah, you should stop because we're talking about the movie.
It's fun context, okay? It's like watching the theatrical version of the movie is like watching a silent movie. The extended editions are like watching them
Technicolor.
No, it's like watching them with sound. Reading the books are like watching Lord of the Rings in color.
Gotcha.
So the setup for this is that they see Gimli and Legolas, or it's Gimli or Legolas, I don't remember. They see a white wizard like in the woods.
Yeah.
And of course they think it's Saruman. They're like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And then and in the previous book in Fellowship, when Frodo is looking into the Mirror of Galadriel, he sees a white wizard roaming through the forest. And of course he thinks it's Saruman because Gandalf had just died.
Yeah.
And so you keep getting these little hints and hints and hints that this is going to be Saruman, of course, because why would it not be? And right before this, in the movie, you have Treebeard telling Merry and Pippin that he's going to deliver them to the White Wizard. The White Wizard will know. And so I love
drops him at the feet.
The movie keeps leading you on, leading you on, leading you on. So then you get to this scene where Legolas, Gimli, and Aragorn, they know that the White Wizard is near.
Yeah.
And Aragorn, yes, do not let him speak. He'll put a spell on us. And so then they all, start to draw their weapons.
Yeah.
And they all start just firing on Gandalf.
Gimli throws an axe.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the thing that I think gives you your first hint is that Aragorn's sword starts to burn. And that's Gandalf's kind of signature move is fire.
Yeah.
And then you get this exchange, which is just terrific. Aragorn, who are you? It cannot be. Legolas, forgive me. I mistook you for Saruman. I am Saruman. Or rather, Saruman as he should have been. I think that right away is such an intriguing thing to say.
Yeah. Well,
he's not just back. Like he is back and doing what Saruman should have been doing.
Yeah. Well, it's like what Saruman started out doing. And then he split into many colors.
Yeah. And he led himself away from his task.
Exactly.
Because there's a lot of history. We won't go into it, but like the Istari, the 5 wizards who came to Middle Earth.
Yeah.
Like they had roles and tasks and things. And Saruman really started to lose his way.
Yeah.
And so this line really holds a lot of weight. And I think that's really cool. And Aragorn you fell. Through fire and water. On the lowest dungeon to the highest peak, I fought with the Balrog of Morgoth. I like that he says that too. Balrog of Morgoth. until at last I threw down my enemy and smote his ruin on the mountain side. Darkness took me, and I strayed out of thought and time. Stars wheeled overhead, and every day was as long as a life age of the earth. But it was not the end. I felt life in me again. I've been sent back until my task is done. And it's the way he says that too,
Mhm.
that last part, because he really starts to get somber.
Mhm.
And then he says it with a lot of confidence,
Mhm.
just in assurance, like I've been sent back until, we're going to get done what needs to be done.
Yeah.
And Aragorn just, Gandalf. That's what they used to call me. That is what they used to call me. Gandalf the Grey. That was my name. I am Gandalf the White, and I come back to you now. At the turn of the tide.
It's cool.
It's cool. And this is also, if you didn't know, one of the few direct interventions of Eru Ilúvatar, God.
Yeah. Bringing him back.
So there's very, very few.
Yeah.
And in the entire history of like
Middle Earth.
like the world,
Mhm.
there's, I can see if I can list them. When Numenor fell into the sea, or not that, it's like when the ships, something with Numenor and like the ships,
Mhm.
like there was like a storm or something. I'm butchering that. It's something from the Silmarillion. That was one of the interventions. There's debate on whether or not Gollum tripping into the crack of doom,
Oh,
if that was direct intervention of Ilúvatar, but it's either that or it's because of the debate I've seen. It's either the direct intervention of Ilúvatar or it was because of the world's rules that Ilúvatar set. So because Gollum swore to the ring,
Yeah. The ring's treacherous.
the ring is treacherous,
Yeah.
and so the ring doomed itself because Gollum bit off Frodo's finger
Mhm.
and took the ring, and because he took the ring is treacherous, and it tripped Gollum, but it was right at the crack of doom, and so in a way it was a ruse, but not really. It was kind of indirect. Bilbo finding the ring is another direct intervention of
Mhm.
Eru, but this is one of the other very few, and it's in Lord of the Rings. It's the only one, unless you count Gollum.
Yeah.
But I mean, it kind of has to be, right? Because of Gandalf. I mean, we just talked about it.
Someone
him being,
just came back to life.
I mean, and Gandalf being Jesus.
Yeah.
It's got to be only Eru can bring him back. Only
Yeah.
God can bring back Gandalf.
Mhm.
And a couple things about that I think are really, really important to touch on is that Gandalf doesn't just come back because he died. He had a noble sacrifice.
Yeah.
Like he sacrificed himself for the fellowship, for
Mhm.
the good of the world.
Yeah.
Right. So that's really important, I think. And two, I also love Gandalf as a symbol for Jesus because Tolkien's faith is written all over these books. I mean, everywhere on these pages. And Gandalf isn't like this. Sometimes in modern media, you get like a caricature of Jesus where he's this sort of milquetoast, like kind character, which he is that, of course, but he's not milquetoast. He's not that.
Mhm.
And so Gandalf is showing that he can wield the sword.
Yeah.
He can command you with his words,
Mhm.
but he also can sit next to you. He can comfort you. He can comfort you at the graveside of your son.
Yeah.
But
He
he
can sit and listen.
He can sit and listen.
Mhm.
But he also can charge into battle with the Rohirrim at Helm's Deep.
Yeah.
And I think that is the most effective way to have a Christ-like character is don't just make him a sort of sage-like teacher, because that's an important aspect of Jesus, but it's not his only aspect. He also was flipping tables from time to time.
He did, if he needed to. The thing I like about the scene, probably my favorite part about the scene, is that he starts sounding like Christopher Lee.
Yes.
And then slowly shifts
He
into
looks
sounding
like him
like,
too, do you know that?
yes.
They overlay his eyes. They overlay Saruman's eyes
As he
Gandalf.
steps forward. Yeah. So that even is more to the idea that like, I am what Saruman should have been.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no wonder Legolas mistook him. He looked just like him.
He did.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Very cool. So good.
Shall we move east?
East.
Towards Gondor.
Towards Gondor.
And with Captain Faramir.
Captain Faramir.
Yeah. So I think like the scene that really like shows the merit of
the quality.
The quality. There it is. The quality of Faramir is this one. I think at last we understand each other, Frodo Baggins. You know the laws of your country, or our country. the laws of your father, if you let them go, your life will be full of it. Then it is full of it. Release them. And this is right after,
The second battle of Osgiliath.
exactly. And then I was going to say Sam's big speech about there being good in the world and that it's worth fighting for. And this whole time, like Faramir's been like, am I going to give the ring up to, like at that point he had been like, nah, we're going to send these guys to my dad. And it's cool because again, it just shows that there is strength still left in men.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Faramir is interesting because he serves as serves as our obstacle for Frodo and Sam for this movie, which is sort of invented for the movie because he's not an obstacle in the book.
Yeah.
But he serves as their obstacle all the way to the end where he does realize that he's in the wrong and he cannot deliver this prize to his father. And the hobbits must be sent on their way.
And he's also, I like the duality of him and Boromir, two towers, if you will.
Mm.
Yeah. So that it's like, one brother, completely corrupted and everything that the ring would have taken him. But I don't think that the ring would have taken Faramir.
Yeah. Faramir seems not really tempted by the ring, but more tempted by his father's affection.
Exactly. That's what he really wants.
He doesn't really care about the ring. He's like, oh, well, if I can send this to my dad, maybe he'll care about me.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I think is really, really interesting. I think that's an interesting way that the movies took his characters. Like it's not like Boromir where it's just the power that Boromir craved.
Yeah.
He just wants acceptance from his family.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's really weird too that they both are craving acceptance from their father just in different ways. Like Boromir also wants the ring because his father basically was like, hey, we got to have it. It's by the blood of our people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, and that's
I think Boromir does it more from a leadership perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he does it just because his dad tells him to.
Yeah.
I think that he just buys into that.
Yeah.
It's like, well, if I bring it back, then we can use this to
we
take
can
on
wield
Sauron.
it. Yep.
Because he's the Captain Boromir.
Yep.
But Faramir, I think, doesn't really care about it.
Yeah.
He just hopes that maybe
his dad might love him.
And maybe the ring is sort of tempting him in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much to wield it himself, but to deliver it to Gondor. Because if it makes it to Gondor, it's over. And Galadriel says that in this movie, right? Is like if it all rests on the young captain from Gondor, and if he falls, then it's all
over.
gone. It's over.
Yeah,
which is pretty huge.
I really do like how Faramir refers to the ring. He calls it the answer to all riddles. I just think that's so sick. Anyway, like in the first movie, it's referred to as Isildur's bane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
it's time for Faramir to show his quality
when
he holds it up.
Yeah,
do you know that? So that shot when Faramir he holds it. He takes it out of Frodo's.
Yeah, it's on the chain. Yeah,
with his sword.
Mm-hmm.
The actor who plays Faramir was too scared to do that, so they got a swordsman to do it.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
because he's afraid he was going to cut him.
Yeah, he was afraid he was going to stab Frodo.
Why didn't they just have a dummy sword?
I don't know. Well, I mean, with a dummy sword, it still would have been like sharp. Like the point would have been sharp.
I guess so.
He was afraid he was going to stab him, so they got a swordsman to do it.
Oh, there you go.
I think that's a funny anecdote.
That is, yes. I don't want to hurt you.
So Gondor is one of our other big factions. And while he's not technically a member of this faction yet, he soon will be. And that is Aragorn, son of Arathorn.
He's wearing those gauntlets, though.
Yes, he is.
Yes.
Boromir's gauntlets.
I know. I don't know how that sets with me.
Really?
It's interesting. Yeah.
I think it's like he's taking him to Gondor. They're going to ride into Gondor together.
Yeah. I mean, I can see how it could be respectful, but at the same time, I could see how it's like, you just stole his clothes.
Is it like Lando?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. How dare you wear those?
I like it. I think it's him paying homage and like carrying Boromir's memory into battle.
Yeah.
But yeah, Aragorn. So Aragorn has an interesting arc, I think, all throughout this film.
Yeah.
He's the reluctant king and he wants to help Rohan. And he acts as sort of an advisor and a friend to King Theoden.
Yes.
Which is great as they move into Helm's Deep. And he's a warrior. And there's a really great moment when they're getting prepped for the Battle of Helm's Deep. I will fight as one of them.
Yeah. Die is one of them.
Die is one of them. Excuse me. Yes. I will die as one of them.
Yeah.
Fantastic scene. Fantastic line.
I guess all I have to really say about Aragorn is I do think it's neat that like through this whole movie, I take it as you will. Like I kind of take it that like Theoden is showing him how kind of not to be king. Like how, like you gotta kind of do it differently. And and I think that you kind of take it as that, like Aragorn showing Theoden how to be king.
Yes, that's my take.
Yeah. And I just that like the kind of like with the conversation that you were just saying that like, I'll die as one of them, where it's like, no, he's like now accepting man, where like the guy was raised by elves and everything. And I wouldn't take the ring within 20 leagues of your city. That like he's, trying to get to Lothlorien. Like, I mean, he's trusting everybody but man in Fellowship of the Ring, but here he's willing to die with men. And, it's just interesting for where that character is going to go and that growth of that character, because I mean, ultimately he's going to become the king of all men.
Yeah.
So even just the regular guys, it's cool that he's willing to die on even that battlefield. It is, with that sword behind you, he can unite all peoples.
Yeah. I love that. There's a few great Aragorn scenes. I mean, there's a lot of great Aragorn scenes in this movie. We're saving kind of the Mac Daddy one for our Helm's Deep. When we get into Helm's Deep here in a little bit.
Yeah.
But
I really like, I don't know. I mean, I guess this is kind of the time to talk about it. I really love how this movie opens with them just chasing after Merry and Pippin. And you get all those sweet shots of New Zealand and they're just running. And it's like Gimli says, 3 days, no eating, no sleeping. Like all they care about is just getting their friends. And I'm like, that's good. I think that's, we need more of that in not only fiction, but in the real world.
Those shots, and they do them often enough that it makes these movies feel so real.
Oh, yes.
Like so
that you could
real.
Very tangible, that you could go to these places in which, you've seen pictures of people in those actual places and they've changed a little bit, but not too much.
Yeah. Very, very cool. But yeah, I like that they've included a little bit more about like him becoming king, those sort of the machinations of Gandalf as well.
Yeah.
Like that scene, I mentioned it earlier about him staring off, Gandalf staring off, and he comes up and is like, Sauron fears you.
Yeah.
I love that aspect of it because him becoming the King of Kings does scare Sauron.
Yeah.
And like, that's an interesting
so much
idea.
that it distracts him from Frodo.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that next week.
Yeah.
But that's so interesting is like that's Sauron's weakness. It's not Gandalf. It's not that, Sauron fears the white. Now the rumor has reached him. The white wizard has returned. That's not the line. It's that he fears you, Aragorn.
Yeah.
This guy that the heir of Numenor still lives. And I think that is so interesting.
A guy that can, the whole thing is like Gandalf can't unite everybody, but the heir of Numenor can unite everybody.
Yeah.
And who's he marry? Marries an elf that can unite all of that. Like, he's that crazy jelly that could just like, unite everybody.
Well, it's
just a good dude.
Because we're in the time of men, and like, so it has to be a man that unites.
Yep.
It can't be an elf because the elves are sailing into the west. Their time is over.
Yep. Dwarves don't care.
The dwarves are diving deeper and deeper into the mountains. And so it's just man that's left. And so it has to be Aragorn.
Yep.
And I think that scene is so neat. Even though Aragorn doesn't really even say anything in that scene. He's just kind of listening. But
hardly at all.
Gandalf just turns and he just whispers to him, Sauron fears you, Aragorn. And imagine hearing that, the weight that would then be on your shoulders. Like,
yes.
Wow. The most, like, we're looking right now out into the east. We're seeing this supernatural, just fire and storm and lightning and smoke. And what's creating that? What's conjuring that in the east? Fears me? This man?
Bull.
I've got a lot to do.
Yes, exactly.
I can't be that, and you can almost understand how he's reluctant to take up his sword, to take up Narsil, but he has to be, and he has to do it. And I think that, it recalls another Bible passage, about, let my cup pass, like if this is truly your will.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that line even comes from Gandalf, that it's almost like it's almost a divine sort of proclamation to Aragorn. Like, this is what you must do.
Yeah.
And Aragorn,
it's your birthright.
Can I do this? But yeah.
Well, I do like that his confidence is building. Like,
Arwen's
kind of the thing holding him up in the first one. And then in this one, it's like the people of Rohan, and he's getting his, he's building
he's
all
not
his confidence.
cowering because he's scared.
No.
He's cowering because he doesn't think he's enough. And
exactly.
I think that's different. That's a much different type of reluctance.
Yeah.
And because he doesn't want the power.
Yeah, no, and I don't think that I don't think he's scared at all, but I think that it's just kind of like, do I have what it takes?
Yeah, that's what it is for sure. That scene does end in kind of a neat way.
Yeah.
Oh, he's got it there.
Yeah, I really like it. Do not regret your decision leaving him. Frodo must finish this task alone. He's not alone. Sam went with him. He did. He did indeed. Good. Yes. Very, very good. I love it. Like, it just like, I think it's interesting that I feel like that like Gandalf was aware of everything that was happening, but like he's been touched by infinity, like since he was dead and everything, that it's like he's still recounting everything too at the same time. And it's like, oh man, like all the pieces are coming together. And I think it's cool that just again, like reaffirmation that like Aragorn made the right decision. It was like, you gotta let him go.
Yep.
Yeah. Because you can't sneak into Mordor with him, and the world needs you in other places.
I love that that's a moment that Gandalf gets to be the gray for a moment again.
Yes.
Because he has to be the white from now on. Like, he has to be Saruman.
Yeah.
He has to take up that sort of general aspect where he's leading these armies, and he's got the power buff, right? He's got the ring. I forget the Narya, right? Narya. Yeah. When he's out there, and that's super important, right?
Yes.
So I love that for a moment he gets to be the gray again. And like, he's just so happy that Sam is now with Frodo. And I just, the way that,
well, he put them together. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Confound it all, Samwise Gamgee.
Yeah.
But the Ian McKellen's performance, I think, is really underrated. I almost take it for granted because he just is Gandalf. Like, he just is this character.
Yeah.
And that performance right there in that moment where there's this genuine surprise.
Yeah.
He did. He did indeed. Good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
It's
the winks that get me. Is the random winks. Let's journey to some more newcomers. All right. Let's journey into Fangor Forest.
Ooh.
Let's talk about the Ents. Yeah. I'm not sure how I feel about the Ents. I like what they represent.
Okay.
But like Treebeard's like the only one I like, if that makes sense. Granted, the other ones don't really get a whole lot of screen time or anything like that. But I do like what they represent, like the old world, and they represent nature and, kind of creation, if you will. Like the Iluvatar's creation rather than like Sauron and Saruman's creations, because they're just simple. That makes sense, where it's just kind of like, yeah, I'm going to read you my poetry. We're going to chit chat. You're not orcs. Now we're going to take you home because we're not involved anymore. And then it's, it all builds to that moment where he walks up to Isengard.
I mean, they're the most Tolkien characters that Tolkien characters can be.
It's true.
I think.
Yes.
That's as close to Tom Bombadil
as we're going to get. Yeah,
and I think that they even have some Tom Bombadil dialogue in the extended edition, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Yeah, I personally love that.
You do?
Yeah.
You do like them? I think they're just okay. I don't know. And maybe that's why I don't like this one as much as I like Fellowship. That a lot of the newcomers, I'm just kind of like, they're all right.
I will say that they're not, and again, I'm sorry, I got to keep talking about the book, but they're built up to better in the books, because in Fellowship, when they get off on their journey, they start talking about like what Merry and Pippin reference. Yeah. Like about, but back in Buckland, they talk about the trees. Yeah. Tree shepherds. They encounter that. Yeah. Like in the book. And you don't really know what's going on, but it's heavily hinted and it's built and built and built. And then in this movie, you finally get the reveal. Yeah. And so I think that you're kind of expecting it by the time you get there. And also in the books, you get so much description of nature all the time that it just feels natural. This is living nature, basically. Yeah. When you get there, it just feels like, this is just part of it. You know? It is kind of a wild turn. They climb the tree, and then all of a sudden the tree just starts moving and talking and crushing orcs and stuff like that. That it is kind of how I said with Fellowship last week that it was like, man, this almost seems like it could have happened. Like, this is when we're starting to get into that whole, like, maybe this is getting a little too crazy. Really? Yeah. That's so interesting. Yeah. Again, I think this is part of I think the book really handles this better, because they, when Aragorn and Gimli and Legolas go into the woods, for example, like Gimli starts hacking things away with his axe, and like you start hearing groaning and
Yeah.
stuff, and he's like, "Put away your axe." And Legolas is like, "This is a really old forest.
Yeah.
This is older even
Charming.
than me."
So charming.
Yeah, that's a great scene.
Mm-hmm.
I think that element of like this could have happened is explained. Maybe it's in the movie or the book. I don't remember, but like the trees have went to sleep, and so that's why they don't move anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like little additions like that because that keeps the element of this could have happened alive.
Yeah.
I guess I get what you mean. It is fantasy.
It
But
just starts getting crazy, I feel like. Yeah. And so, I don't know. That's just me, though.
Okay.
Doesn't mean that I hate Treebeard or the characters, but
Fair enough.
I think that it's this scene because we're not just sitting in a circle going like, well, we decided you're not orcs.
Yeah.
The crew just kind of rolls up on Isengard and just realized that like, oh my gosh, Saruman has like destroyed everything. Industrialization has destroyed everything. Saruman, a wizard, should know better. There's no curse in Elvish, Intish, or the tongues of men for this treachery. Then Merry and Pippin are like, hey, what are those trees doing over there? And Treebeard answers, they have business with the orcs. My business is with Isengard tonight, with rock and stone. Come, my friends, the Ents are going to war. It is like we go to our doom. Oh, it is likely that we go to our doom, the last march of the Ents. And then you get that sick music playing.
As they all start.
As they start walking down there. Yeah.
And how about Merry and Pippin's ingenuity to get them there?
Yes, it's good.
Because
It's so
like
good.
they decided that because they've been talking for forever at the Entmoot.
Yes.
And they're like, oh, did you decide?
Yeah.
We have decided that you are not orcs.
Yeah.
Well, come on, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like, well, anything that's worth saying, is worth taking a long time to say.
Yeah.
And they, Treebeard decides to take them back, and Pippin, Merry or Pippin, I don't remember which one, is like, hey, maybe we should go south.
We could talk about that.
Oh, you want to talk about Merry Pippin?
We could talk about that for a second. I don't know if you really want to.
Let's jump into Merry Pippin.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, so they, we want to go south, but that would take you close to Isengard. Yes. Well, the closer we are to danger, the further we are from harm. It's the last thing he'd expect. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But then again, you are very small. So I will say that, like, yes, the last quote I said about them going to war is really cool, but like that whole they are very small, that just like that resonates with me. That
not short.
What? Because I'm short?
Oh no, I didn't say that.
Oh, okay. It just reminds me of like, granted, I'm not a father, but like I have with my job, I've worked with kids time or two. And it just kind of reminds me of that, where sometimes someone younger than you will say something and you're just like, huh, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But you are small. And maybe maybe that since I'm grown, that I just don't see it that way.
Okay.
And so, that's kind of how I take that quote.
That's great.
And so like, that's why I like, again, well, like, gosh, we should keep just bringing it back, that like, Jesus always said there's a spot for kids, let the little children come to me. Yeah. That it's
let your
like
faith be like a baby.
Exactly. Where it's, that don't shun them, that don't like, give them the time of day. And so I always try to listen, and it's like, I may not always understand what's going on, but like still their perspective. I shouldn't shun it just because they're younger than me. So, yeah.
I did not. That has given me much to consider. That's great. That's a great way of looking at that. I did not think about it that way.
Never thought about it like that.
That makes me think about, so one thing my daughter's doing right now.
Yeah.
It drives me up the wall, actually.
Yeah.
She's getting control over her hands.
Okay.
And so she'll really want her pacifier.
Yeah.
And now she's not like, we waited a while to give her a pacifier so she wouldn't be so, I don't know, like too
reliant
attached
on
to
it.
it. Reliant on it. But when she gets kind of sleepy, she does want it. And so she'll take it, but then she'll
throw it
and then get mad. And I'm like, but you were the one who threw it.
Yeah.
But then again, she is very small.
She is very small. I know. It's just like, that's how I've always taken it. Or it's just kind of like, it's just different perspective on life. Yeah.
That's great. I love that. I'm going to think about that the next time she does that. I'm like, that doesn't make much sense to me that you just did that. But then again, you are very small.
Very small.
I like that. I like that a lot. That's great. And that's a great scene too. Because why do they say that? Why do they try to get Treebeard to go south?
Oh, I mean, they're basically trying to coax him into
seeing the carnage of Isengard.
Exactly. Yes.
It's great.
Mm-hmm.
It shows that Merry and Pippin have come a long way.
It's true that they are not just the dorks that kind of got themselves captured. Which, in the last movie we did say that's honorable. That's what they could do to help, but now they can do much more.
Yeah.
And I think that grows too with I love the scene where Pippin takes off his brooch and throws it so Aragorn can be tracking them basically.
I think they're cunning. That's the thing about Merry and Pippin.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the moment earlier in this film where they're looking at each other when they're still in the company of the Uruk-hai, and they say, maybe it was a mistake leaving the Shire. Yeah. Because they're still not confident in themselves, but they've kind of found a way to help and be a part of this. And they basically take down Saruman.
They do.
Which is incredible. The
coming of Merry and Pippin is not unlike small stones at the beginning of an avalanche.
Oh yeah. Gandalf says that.
He does.
That's great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's true. I mean, they come and they basically turn the tide. I mean, it's interesting because we are talking about that that Gondor's worried because they're going to be attacked on two fronts. Well, how's Isengard taken down? They're attacked on two fronts. Is that Helm's Deep is pushed back, and then their forces are destroyed by the trees, and then the Ents take out their house. Yeah. So yeah, kind of wild.
And I like how the way they do it. They break the dam,
which
quells the fires.
It's true. Exactly.
And destroys the industry.
And I was going to say nature does its thing. Yes. Yeah.
It's great. It's beautiful. I mean, the only major gripe I have with Tolkien himself is that he says that his books were not about allegory. And I'm like, I don't know, man.
I see it.
I see quite a bit.
Yeah.
Of allegory.
Yeah.
But I've heard also that that's not quite what he meant, is that he meant the he did not, implicit versus explicit.
Yeah.
Because Narnia, for example, is I always get them mixed up, implicit versus explicit. Narnia is more explicit.
Oh yeah.
It's explicitly Christian.
Oh,
right.
Definitely.
Aslan is Jesus. He at the end is basically in your world, you know me by another name.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm there.
So, but Lord of the Rings is
Yes.
And so I think maybe that's the difference, is maybe that's what he means.
Yeah.
And but both have value. Both stories definitely have value, and both ways of conveying definitely have value. At the very end of this movie, you have Sam saying it's like the great stories, Mr. Frodo, the ones that really mattered, full of darkness and danger they were. And sometimes you didn't want to know the end, because how could the end be happy? How could the world go back to the way it was when so much bad had happened? But in the end, only a passing thing, the shadow. And it's this part that really, I'm skipping a little bit, but it says, those were the stories that stayed with you, that meant something, even if you were too small to understand why. That's something we've always said about Star Wars.
Yeah.
Those tentpole stories. That even when you were small, they meant something. Maybe you didn't know why until you were older. But I think that with the Ents and Lord of the Rings in general, right? You know why. You know it means something. Maybe you don't know why now. Maybe because you're too small. But as you get older, you see this is about industry, and how industry can't overstep, and if it can't burn away the world, can't burn away nature, and
eventually there'll be nothing left for industry to burn.
Exactly.
And then what?
Yeah. And the broader themes, of course, of Lord of the Rings too, but the biblical themes that are very implicit, and of course the themes about fellowship, and the themes about pushing back evil, and all of these things I think are so important. So I love that. I think it's fantastic.
I think it's interesting too that I had a conversation with somebody this week about how I think that fiction's better when you can get something actually out of it, if that makes sense. Where it's The Boys is fun, but I mean, at the same time, do you really get anything out of it? Really? Oh, don't be like Homelander. But there's actually something to chew on with this. Yeah. There's something to chew on with Star Wars.
It's timeless.
Exactly.
Right? That's what's important. Something like The Boys, unfortunately, because this is not from me. Eric Kripke has very explicitly said, it's very politically driven. Yeah. And it dates it too.
Yeah.
It's
true. About what was happening in the world at the time.
And the same thing happened with the comic, right? It was about that administration at the time. And so it's just, it dates it, and you're going to polarize one side or the other. And it's but with a tentpole story, it doesn't work that way. I think everybody can agree that evil is bad, and we need to push back evil. We need to stave off temptation. Yeah. We need to stay true to ourselves,
Yes.
with
Good
fellowship.
friendship. Yes.
Like there are core tenets of how you should live, and then we can divvy off and disagree about things when it comes to perhaps politics or beliefs or this and that or other thing.
Mhm.
But these stories matter because they get the fundamentals right.
Yeah.
And then that's when it's like, you need to know the fundamentals to get anything else right down the road.
Yeah.
And that's when you can have fun conversations about that other stuff, is when you get the fundamentals correct, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But while I was talking about Sam, I might as well continue talking about
I was
Sam.
going to say, we've skipped all over.
We've really...
we are really sorry about that, guys.
I mean, The Two Towers kind of does that too, though. This is a long movie, and it jumps all over the place.
Everywhere.
But hey, Samwise Gamgee,
Mhm.
he's quite the character in this, right?
He is. It's kind of mean.
He's a little mean.
He's got to kind of just be he's Frodo's muscle.
Yeah.
'Cause Frodo can't do much in this movie.
But I mean, that is the Sam scene.
It is.
Like we see him throughout this really being Frodo's rock, but he's also, I don't think Sam understands in this movie.
Mhm.
I do like that he's not just, for lack of a better term, ride or die completely. I mean, he is, but he's not just.
I don't think he understands the mission completely yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just
That's a good way to say it.
we got to get there. But like, he doesn't know the cost of it.
I just love that he's complex in that way. He's not just, I'm going to stand by everything Frodo says. And he says Gollum is worth saving. Well, then by golly, he's worth saving. I'm going to work toward that end too. No, Sam's got a mind of his own.
Mm-hmm.
That makes him a better character when
He's
he decides to, when he decides to pick up his cross and bear it in the next movie.
Mm-hmm.
To read his entire line here, because it's so good.
Yeah.
It's at the end when they face so much hardship throughout this film.
Yeah.
Faramir stonewalling them, capturing them. They're in Osgiliath. The ring wraiths are there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so hard.
Yeah.
And Frodo finally breaks down. I can't do this, Sam. I know. It's all wrong. By rights, we shouldn't even be here. But we are. It's like in the great stories, Mr. Frodo. The ones that really mattered. Full of darkness and danger they were. And sometimes you didn't want to know the end. Because how could the end be happy? How could the world go back to the way it was when so much bad had happened? But in the end, it's only a passing thing, this shadow. Even darkness must pass. A new day will come, and when the sun shines, it will shine out clearer. Those were the stories that stayed with you, that meant something, even when you were too small to understand why. But I think, Mr. Frodo, you do understand. I know now. Folk in those stories had lots of chances of turning back, only they didn't. They kept going because they were holding on to something.
What are we holding on to?
That there's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and it's worth fighting for. And gosh, Sam is the heart and soul of these movies.
It's true. I mean, he had he had the scene in the last one, basically.
Yep.
And I think this is like the...
And I mean, he has the scene in the next movie too.
Mm-hmm.
Like the moment.
Yeah. And they've all kind of been building.
Yeah.
That like this kind of builds on what he said in Fellowship, and then the next one's going to build on what he said here. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's great because it does show what we were just saying, that like he doesn't, I mean, he says it better than what I could do. Like he understands now, like they have chances to turn back, but the reason why those stories are great and why those heroes and those people they look up to are great is because they have the chance to turn back, but they don't. They finish the mission. Yeah. Because there is good worth fighting for. Yeah. I think that's really cool. Now, we've been talking a lot. Long time.
Yes.
Because there's a lot to talk about in this movie.
There is.
And
tons.
I think that the folks at home might be like, guys, you're missing something huge right now. Like something big. Yeah. Because there is a character who kind of steals the show.
Yes.
In this movie.
Yeah.
And that, of course, is Gollum.
Yes.
Schmeagol. Two towers in their own right.
Mm-hmm.
Man, just first off, before we even get into a scene, what a groundbreaking performance by Andy Serkis.
On top of groundbreaking visual effects, because how old is this thing?
Oh,
this thing's like 20 years old.
Yeah, 2002.
And there's sometimes it looks flawless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Serkis, I think, says that his favorite scene is when Gollum and Sam are talking by the pot when he's making the soup.
Yeah.
And he spits. And that's actually Andy Serkis' spit flying through the air.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
And it's amazing, like how seamlessly
it is.
This character
and it's
is in
weird
here.
too how Gollum looks like him.
Yeah.
just with big eyes. Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Well, that was a very bold decision on the part of Peter Jackson, was to not only cast Andy Serkis, but to have him be physically on set in the scenes, in motion capture, performing the character. I mean, Gollum sets the stage for everything to come after. Thanos.
Yeah.
For some reason, that's the only thing coming to mind right now. I
Davy
don't know
Jones.
why. Thank you. I don't know why. Like I was like, incredible. Like my mind went blank.
Avatar. Because that's when James Cameron was like, hey, I think I could finally do this.
Yeah. I mean, Jar Jar walked so Gollum could sprint so that everything else could
Comes
exist.
after. Yeah.
It's incredible. I mean, Gollum is just a marvel of cinema, is a marvel of movie making mastery.
Yes.
And is all credited not only to the visual effects artist, but to Andy Serkis, because it's a perfect marriage. Talk about lightning in a bottle, like we were talking about in our perfect movies. Andy Serkis as Gollum is lightning in a bottle.
Yes.
I don't think this works with anybody else. I think the visual effects maybe look just as good, but he's like Johnny Depp with Jack Sparrow.
Yeah.
Like he brings such a physicality to the role.
Well, I mean, it's just like born to play that.
And it is another
That's what
level.
he's put on the earth for.
I mean, that's why he's sitting right there.
It's true.
I'll talk about that. I'll talk about that signature on there here in a couple weeks when we do our live stream. It's a fun story. But that's a photo that I took. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, very love this character.
Yes.
So for as far as scenes go, I have just real briefly, I want to mention something that I think is really important that happens toward the beginning of the film. It's when Gollum makes an oath on the ring.
We swears to.
Yeah.
On the precious.
We swears to it on the I can't do the voice. On the precious. And he binds himself to that ring. But the ring is treacherous. And we'll find that the ring continues to be treacherous, especially in the next movie.
Yes.
And we kind of teased that up toward the front when we were talking about Eru's intervention, or if it was intervention or not. And this is wise, because it's kind of a blink and you miss it moment. Because I remember when I've watched this before, I never thought that really meant anything.
Really? I don't know why. That's always stuck with me, because I'm just like, that's odd phrasing. It's like the ring's treacherous. It's going to hold you to your word. Does it do that to anybody else? Yeah.
See, when I've watched this before, I've always thought that it was just Gollum believed it.
Yeah.
And they just needed Gollum to believe it.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
Because Gollum's so obsessed with the ring,
Yeah.
and he knows that the ring is treacherous, but nothing's really going to bind him to that oath. Like I don't know why I thought that, but that was my thought process always when I used to watch this movie. But I mean, yes, it's so clear now.
Yeah.
But it is such a passing thing. I think it's because they say it so casually. But I don't know, at least when they say that part, like, well, the ring is treacherous, it will hold you to your word.
Yeah.
That does feel like they're just trying to say that to Gollum to get him to do what they want.
Yeah.
But I do like that a lot.
Yeah.
So anyway, there is a really great scene.
Yeah.
And I can't do the voice.
Yeah.
But Seth can do the voice.
Oh, you need to stop that. Guys,
So-
I will try to do the voice. Do I have to do the whole thing? Do you really want me
It's
to do
mainly the end. So it's mainly the last part of this scene. So I'll set it up that way you don't have to read the whole thing if you don't want to.
Well, I mean,
So the boys are asleep.
yeah.
And they've been with Gollum Smeagol for a while. Frodo's kind of nice to him, because he's remembering Gandalf.
Yeah.
Gandalf telling him to take pity.
I think Frodo's starting to realize too that it's like, I could become this.
Yes, exactly.
This is a very, very real thing.
But Sam is super mean.
As he probably should be, though. He's a villain.
Should he be, though? I'll say, I don't know. I think some people are a little too mean to Gollum.
He did murder his brother.
They don't know that.
It's true. I mean, that like, I think that Gollum is like the representation of like how bad the ring is physically. Where it's like, that's the mission. You know what I mean? Where it's like, we got to get rid of him.
Of course.
If we don't, we're going to all end up like him. Yeah.
Just like,
you still got to show pity. Yes.
you have to show pity.
Yeah.
And I think that if Sam ever saw Frodo fall that far, I think Sam would
He'd
want to
still
bring
try.
Frodo back.
Yeah.
So I think that everybody's a little too mean to Gollum. But anyway, they're sleeping.
Yeah.
And Smeagol, Gollum, is out kind of sitting by this pool and talking to himself. Well, not by the pool.
No,
he's
he's
by himself.
he's by ruins. He's just talking to himself.
And he's trying to get Gollum to go away. And it's this great back and forth. I just love the way it's edited.
Yes.
Because it's very simple.
Yeah.
It's the same shot. It's just edited in this thirds way. And I think, again, this is the brilliance of Peter Jackson's filmmaking. It's so simple, but it's so effective.
Have you ever noticed the pupils?
Yeah. They go big and they go small.
Yes. The Smeagol has big pupils, but Gollum has tiny pupils.
And there's moments too, I
Where he
also
blinks.
love where he you can see him move in real time.
Yep.
Like in the camera cuts.
Yeah.
So obviously he's just doing this when he's talking to himself.
Yeah.
Which you should do when you read it, by the way.
I should do this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's just doing that when he's talking to himself. But and then the camera just simply is aligning him via whichever third Gollum or Smeagol is in.
Mm-hmm.
But you can see him physically move, and it's just such an easy editing thing. It's so simple.
Mm-hmm.
I'll demonstrate how simple this is.
Oh wow! Now you're putting me on. I gotta now just read it, I guess.
So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Give us a show.
I guess a peek behind the curtain. I did this for a drama class, and I remember my teacher pulling me aside and being like, "I don't know what you just did up there, but yesterday your classmates set a bar. You broke it." So, and it was one of the nicest things anybody's ever said to me.
You just put the bar up high for yourself.
I know,
right now.
I know. And I don't know. It's been a long time.
That was your own fault.
I know.
Now.
And I did a little bit of it last week. So I don't know. I hope that I can do this still. Like,
We want it. We need it. We must have the precious. They stole it from us. Sneaky little hobbitses. Wicked, tricksy, filthy. No, master. Yes, precious. First, they will cheat you. They will hurt you. Lie to you. Master's my friend. You don't have any friends. Nobody likes you.
oh man, I cannot keep it going. That's bad. Oh, that is bad. Anyway, man, and I don't think this is the same. This is not what I read.
No?
Yeah, so I wonder if they added stuff. I wonder if I read the normal version. But yeah,
I'll just read the end of it, because that's the important part.
I can't. That's what he's screaming. But yes, that he's like, leave now and never come back. No, leave now and never come back.
Leave now and never come back. We told him to go away, and the way he goes, precious, gone, Smeagol is free.
Yeah, it's the best I got. I'm sorry.
It's good.
It's fine. It's
you should have had more confidence in yourself.
Maybe I was going to say it's my age that like I think my voice has dropped a little bit since when I was in high school.
I would hope so.
I hope so too. It's like
yeah. Anyway, I love that scene because I love that once again Tolkien is showing that this character who had the ring for 500 years.
Yeah.
He can even come back.
Yes.
He can do the right thing.
Yeah.
But then tragically, the lesson he learns is that doing the right thing isn't worth it because everybody is still mean to him.
People dump on him no matter what. Yeah.
Because Faramir, that scene
actually
kind of bothers me a little bit. Like when he's in
the corner.
So I understand when he's at the pool.
Yeah.
Okay. Cause they don't know.
Yeah.
Right. And then Jackson actually cut out a lot of some of the Faramir's men torturing him. They were standing on his fingers and all this stuff. They're really torturing him. He said it was a little much. And I'm like, it's already a little much. Like they're throwing him all around.
Yeah.
But then at the end of the movie, when they're on Osgiliath and you hear that great line by Sam that I just read.
Yeah. And he even looks up and then he looks down.
Yeah. Even Gollum is moved by it.
Yeah.
Or Smeagol, I guess. Well, he's kind of in between because Gollum comes back after they start beating him in that cave with Faramir.
Oh yeah.
Like Gollum comes back. He's like, and
because Gollum is that thing that gets him through things. So I think that's the whole.
Yeah, it's a trauma response.
Yep.
And it is really sad. It's really sad because
I love that scene though.
Yeah, where he screams it.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, it is good stuff.
Yeah.
Also, it kind of almost chokes me up a little bit because Smeagol succeeds. He casts away Gollum. And then in that scene, Gollum has to come back because it's the only way Smeagol can cope.
Yeah.
And at the very end of the movie, Smeagol is moved by what Sam says.
Yeah.
And then they tell him to go through the sewers, and then Faramir like grabs him by the neck and he's like, where are you going to lead them?
Kirthungel.
Yeah. And he's like, well, there's a great creature that lingers there. It's like, you could have just asked him.
Yeah.
And then if he was going to lie to you, then you could start choking him out. But like he does it like as a first response. I don't know. That scene kind of bothered me. I don't know if that's in the book. Well, no, it's not because they don't go to Osgiliath in the book.
Yeah.
So I don't like that. But I think Gollum Smeagol, extremely tragic character. Obviously he has a tragic start, but he has a true path to redemption. But then people are so horrible to him that it just shows him it's not worth it.
Yeah.
And I think, again, that's the brilliance of these of this story and showing us very real things. Like how many times is there somebody in real life, that maybe was not a good person, but they were on the path to be better, but somebody just would not let them because they were too obsessed with showing them their past mistakes.
Yeah.
And it showed them like, you know what? Fine. I guess I am that guy that you keep telling me I am.
You just explained A Clockwork Orange.
Yeah?
Anyway, yeah.
Never seen that movie.
It's not worth your time, but that is like that some people just can't change. That's the whole thing. That's kind of the underlying idea behind it.
But that's not the message here. Is like Gollum could have changed.
He could have, yes.
If not
but
for
that's
the weakness of men.
Yeah.
Okay. To close us out here.
Yes.
We got to close this out.
I know. We've been talking a long time. We haven't even talked about like the biggest thing though. I hope you're going to the thing.
That's because the two towers of this movie, the opening and the closing.
It's true. Yes. Take us home.
The greatest battle ever put to screen. Do you agree with that? A lot of people say that. The greatest fantasy battle ever put to screen.
I do want to bring up that like Game of Thrones thought that they were going to do that. And it's like, how many years later?
Yeah.
And they had dragons in it and everything. It's like, it's not even
dimly lit little.
I know. Yeah. It's like it's not even a competition. It's insane.
The Battle of Helm's Deep.
So it begins.
Would
you like me to describe it to you? Would you like me to find you a box?
Dude, I love that. I love that scene. Man.
Yeah. No, it's great.
It's all. So Helm's Deep, first of all, the filmmaking.
Yeah.
Is terrific.
Well, it's all
the rain.
Dude, that's the thing. Like you want to set up big fight feel. I've talked about that before on this show, but like then it starts raining. Oh man.
They also do crowd replication like I've never seen before.
Yeah.
I think there were only ever 100 Uruk-hai at any given point, but 100 is still a lot.
It is a lot of people in makeup.
So you can make that look like a lot of people at any given time. And so it truly feels like scale. Tangible. You can feel it. You can see the rain falling off of their armor.
I love that scene when they first they're all hitting their thing and you could see that one breathing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They through his helmet. Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff. Man.
Yes. That's, oh my gosh. That's just like sucking you into the moment.
I'm not going to walk you through all of Helm's Deep because you can go watch it and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
The things that I like about it, I like when the elves arrive. Great triumphant moment.
Yeah. My wife and I were debating about the whole, when they first show up. And how they and turn. Who do they turn for? It's interesting.
Oh, do they turn for Theoden,
no.
Haldir, or Aragorn?
No, they turn when Legolas comes. That he's technically elven royalty.
Interesting.
Because it's interesting. They don't turn for Theoden. They don't even turn for Aragorn. But then when Legolas shows up. So I don't know. That's just what the internet seems to think. That is. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. That's cool.
Yeah.
There's just so much. Like I have just a bunch of notes about Helm's Deep. But
gotcha. Well, we could talk about it. Who cares? They understand. This is a 3-hour movie.
It's a 4-hour movie.
It's a 4-hour movie. We should probably talk for a while about it.
What's your favorite part about it?
My favorite part about Helm's Deep? I like really the practicality behind it. Like, I mean, that it, as you just said, that it all feels very, very tangible. I do have a question. I've always wondered, because I've never really deep dove on this, the gunpowder, where that came from. And all that. I think that that's really, really interesting. Like that's a thing from our world, but it makes sense if Saruman, like with the destruction of nature and then like industrialization, gunpowder, like it just seems like
black
the world.
Powder has been around for a long time. I mean, how do you think the fireworks work?
Yeah, I guess that's true. But I guess I'm just thinking about that. Like,
in fact, that's an interesting parallel. A great perversion of Gandalf. Like Gandalf uses fireworks for fun and
happiness and everything. And then Saruman uses a concentrated version of it to, blow up Helm's Deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a miniature that they blow up. That's why that looks so good.
Yes. And it's incredible. Insane that like, when you start thinking about that, like, dude, Aragorn and Gimli were on that wall when it exploded. And like Aragorn's down on the ground, Gimli's up on the wall still.
Yeah, and he just jumps down.
Dives into all of them. I mean, I will admit, I think it's a little long. Like, but I think that it is done extremely well. And I think too, that visually
keep you engaged the whole time.
That's what I'm saying is I think it's done really well. And I think that everything that happens, like there's no missteps, none of it really. I will admit, I think the next movie, some of it gets a little samey with the fighting and stuff. I think all this is really, really unique. Like I love the guys coming up on the ladders and then the fighting happening up there, and then like all the arrows going down on people, and the guys working their way up the side with the the big battering ram, and then that becomes a whole subplot that is just, there's lots of little stories within Helm's Deep. And I think that that's what really makes it work and what makes it shine, basically. And then constantly keeping the focus on Theoden, Legolas, Gimli, Aragorn.
Yeah.
A little bit of Haldir. That's what kind of keeps it going.
I think they do a terrific job of establishing the geography of Helm's Deep. So you always know, like,
where it's at.
Here's the wall.
Yep.
Here's the ramp.
It's
up
the
to
castle.
gate.
Yeah.
And so you know when the battering ram comes up and you can see the ladders, and you know that when Legolas throws down the rope, you know why, because he's up on the rampart and there's the ladders, right?
And you saw him going up there. Yeah. And then when they have to retreat, you see them all go back into into the actual keep. Yeah.
It's wonderfully done. And and I think at all moments, the tension is continually rising.
Yeah.
So at first you're like, oh man, the elves arrived. You think that they're really going to get the upper hand, and they do have the upper hand for a little while.
Yeah.
But then they blow up.
They blow up the deeping wall. Yeah.
Yes. And so then they need to retreat back into the keep. And so now things are getting darker and darker and darker and darker.
In fact, it's so much, I feel like it almost does make you forget about Gandalf, that he's supposed to come, because so much has happened since the last time you saw Gandalf.
Yeah.
And then, they look at the window, look for my...
That's another critique I have. I wish they would not have put his voice there.
Oh, really?
And just let you remember.
Oh, it's just let you remember? Okay.
Just linger on that sun.
But I mean, Lord of the Rings does that, though.
I know. I get it. It's just, that's a personal gripe. I always like it when you show, don't tell. But yeah, that is more fantasy, to hear him echo and stuff. I get it. But,
So, but I mean, although I think it unfortunately leads to insanity in The Hobbit, I don't mind Legolas going down the stairs on a shield while shooting guys. Like, I feel like that actually like makes sense for his character, that he's light on his feet. He needs to get down there to help his friends. I think that he has shown that he's more than capable, like physically, to be able to do that. Yeah. So it doesn't bother me that much.
We chatted about that before I watched this.
Yeah.
And I kept an eye out for it, and I was ready to make fun of it. Yeah. I just think it looks great.
I was going to say, it's very practically done when CG him as being insane in The Hobbit. That
it's amazing the difference that makes, doesn't it?
I know.
Like, good. I don't want to just crap on CG, because CG is great. I mean, it's integrated very well in this movies.
Yeah, it's a tool,
but
not a crutch.
Yes. And it's done so well in this movie, you know, in these movies. It just makes me really wish that the Hobbit movies were done the same way.
Yeah.
Or just one Hobbit movie, preferably, was done in the same way.
But are you going to get to the end?
Well, I was just going to talk about Gimli and Legolas for a moment, because I love their little competition, because they get fleshed out as characters a lot in this movie.
Yes.
And it really gets spelled out more by the end of the battle, because you have Gimli sitting on that
42 or 43. Yeah. Yes.
Legolas, final count, 42. 42. Oh, that's not bad for a pointy-eared elvish princeling. I myself am sitting pretty on 43. And he shoots the Uruk that Gimli is sitting on. 43. He was already dead. He was twitching. He was twitching because he's got my axe embedded in his nervous system.
I like how he's shaking as he's
I love that. It's so great. You get this built up through the whole movie. The moment you mentioned earlier when they're surrounded by the riders of Rohan.
Yeah.
And
it is a quick shift, but like it makes sense when you really sit and think about it, because like what just happened? Two of their friends just died. Legolas just doesn't want anybody else to die at that point.
Yeah.
It's like, even if they don't like each other.
Thing.
Yeah.
And I love the box line is one of my favorites.
It is a great line.
But the end of this fight, or this battle, really, is, I think, one of this movie's best moments. I mean, you could argue it's the best moment. And it's Aragorn and Theoden. It's Theoden's best moment for sure. They're being overrun by Uruks. They're in the keep. It's over.
Yeah.
The Uruks have overrun them. They have nowhere to go. They're battering down the door.
Ride out with me.
Theoden, the fortress is taken. It's over. Aragorn, you said this fortress would never fall while your men defend it. They still defend it. They have died defending it. Is there no way for the women and children to get out of the caves? Is there no other way? There is another way. It leads to the mountains, but they will not get far. The Uruk-hai are too many. Send word for the women and children to make for the mountain pass and barricade the entrance. And then Theoden. So much death. What can men do against such reckless hate? Ride out with me. Ride out and meet them. For death and glory. For Rohan.
Right there. Being a king for people Not for death and glory. No, for your people.
For Rohan, for your people.
Yep.
And then Gimli says, the sun is rising. And then you hear Gandalf echo in the distance.
Yeah.
Theoden, yes. Yes. The horn of Helm Hammerhands shall sound in the deep one last time. Let this be the hour that we draw swords together. Fell deeds await. Now for wrath, now for ruin, and the Red Dawn. They charge out to meet the Uruk-hai head on, inspiring the men one last time, and then out in the distance in the east at the top of the hill with the sunrise behind him, you see Gandalf the White with the Rohirrim and Éomer beside them that were 3,000 leagues away.
Yeah, can't get back to him.
And he rides in with his power buff, blinding the Uruk-hai, because that's Gandalf's power, right?
Well, it's also too that like they talk a little bit about how the cloud follows with Sauron. Well, Gandalf's dissipating that.
That's great.
Yes.
That's true.
Yes, and granted, the Uruk-hai they can walk during the day. I mean, they got there and everything, but it's just that, that shadow that's over Helm's Deep, Gandalf breaks that shadow.
It's so fun. Like you've talked about this before. You talked about it last week about how like these movies grow on you and you learn new things all the time as you get older. I remember when I was a kid, because I watched Harry Potter a lot when I was a kid. I watched these two. But I always thought Gandalf was so much more lame than like Dumbledore, because I was like, man, Dumbledore's out there, like getting Voldemort up in these giant like waves
water
and
bubbles.
stuff.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I love Dumbledore, but I love him now for different reasons. And I always thought like, what can Gandalf do? He can like, oh cool, he could blind a bunch of guys.
Yeah.
But now that I'm older, I see like, no, Gandalf is
Nature listens to Gandalf.
This is way better.
Yeah.
Because like you just said, the storm follows Sauron. The storm rises in the east, but the light follows Gandalf.
Yeah.
Because he is the light. Like he's bringing forth that, like, and he inspires the men around him. And what is a better power than that?
Yeah.
Than inspiring the hearts of men? Because that is what he does. That is his power. That's his magic.
Literal nature.
And yeah, he could be sitting there like throwing fireballs at some of the Uruk-hai, but I mean, that's only going to get you so far. Like him inspiring all those around him.
Yeah.
And being the general, because he's at the front lines. He's not sitting at the back.
No.
And again, like to tie it again to that Gandalf being the Christ figure, he's leading them in.
Well, I mean, and if you look like as like for lack of a better term, the heavens open and then shine down on the Uruk-hai and blind them and everything. So then they raise their spears so they can just get wiped out.
I love it. Yeah. And Theoden too is, this moment for Theoden is great because he's just an ordinary guy.
Yeah.
And he proves here that even though he is an ordinary man, he is worthy of lordship. And like any of us, he can turn the tide of battle just by doing the right thing and having courage and riding out against the evil.
To meet it. Yep.
And I love how this ends. And really, this is how our discussion ends, because all of this insanity that we just saw for 4 hours is crazy. The war against men and Rohan and the Helm's Deep. The battle for Helm's Deep is over. But the battle for Middle Earth is about to begin.
Yeah.
Questions that need answering.
All right, y'all. You know the deal. Every week I post a prompt on Instagram and on YouTube. I did remember this week. Got you covered. Asking you guys the prompt of the week. What are your questions for us? Mostly about the topic of the week, but you really can throw down anything and we may or may not pull them. We try to pull a lot of them.
As many as we can.
But the show's already long. The hour grows long. So pulling a couple of this one's from YouTube, Daybreaker_KOA. The Battle of Helm's Deep is the best battle in film history and is still underrated. I'd love to hear you guys talk about the dynamic between Aragorn and King Theoden, especially their interaction inside the keep. Well, Theoden goes from a broken "what can men do against such reckless hate" to an invigorated "the horn of Helm hammerhead shall sound in the deep one last time." Man, I love this movie. Well, fortunately, we just got done talking about that.
Yeah, it's true. I just really like that Aragorn, again, is stepping into that role, that he can inspire anybody, even kings.
Well, it's like an iron sharpens iron thing. I think that we're both maybe kind of right. Like Aragorn is inspiring King Theoden, but Theoden is also inspiring King Aragorn.
Yeah.
I think Theoden is showing Aragorn how he might be king one day.
Yeah.
Just as Aragorn is showing Theoden
How he
why
once was.
Yeah, how
Yeah.
he became king in the first place.
Mhm.
It's great. It's a great dynamic between the two. And they're two great characters for sure.
Mhm.
Old Greg Foskett. Oh, here's a great little fun fact.
Oh,
Maybe you hadn't heard about this. This is really
Uh-huh.
interesting. Hey guys, you may not know this, but when Aragorn kicks the helmet, Viggo actually broke his toe. I love the little fun facts. That's great.
no way.
No way. Did you also know that in the last movie, he actually deflects the knife from the Uruk-hai?
No way.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's crazy. You know, anytime you watch this with friends, and make sure you always show the extended edition, of course, especially if they're watching for the first time, always point this out. And always point this out in a crowded theater as well. If you're ever going to a theater, if they
Sure.
ever re-release it.
Did you know?
That's a really funny clip. So obviously I'm joking. This is very well known.
Yeah.
And so did old Greg Foskett. He put a bunch of little laughing emojis after that. I saw a clip from when they were re-releasing Lord of the Rings in
Yeah.
theaters. It was great. It was in the theater
Yeah.
of that moment. And as soon as that happened, theater dead silent. And then you just hear someone, "Did you know?" And everybody just started laughing. It was great. At Chris Jovanovic. Hey guys, how do you feel about Jackson's decision to reveal Shelob in The Return of the King as opposed to the Two Towers, as was in the case in the books? Do you feel this one movie was improved over the other as a result? Did they both suffer from the decision? Thanks for your thoughts.
For the story that they're telling, I think it's fine. I think that they both suffer a little bit because there is a lot of dead time between things. Frodo and Sam really don't have it's not fair to say that because like Frodo has this like unseen burden that's on him at all times. So as opposed to fighting big battles, like literally the soul of an evil archangel is ripping at him both physically and mentally.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's supposed to, so they don't have a lot of physical conflicts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am torn. So I have an admission to make. I have not read Return of the King. So you're not going to get all my diatribes next week.
Yeah.
So you'll be spared.
I was surprised that you haven't told them yet about your aversion to spiders. Doesn't that bother you?
Oh, for Shelob? Oh,
Yeah.
we'll get into it next week. Don't
Okay.
worry.
All right.
So I have not read Return of the King because when I was reading the books for the first time, that was like, I got really busy after I finished the Two Towers and I just
Mhm.
never was able to get to Two Towers, or rather get to Return of the King. So I don't know how the pacing is affected in Return of the King. I imagine it's quite good because I really loved Two Towers.
Mhm.
I think Jackson was kind of put between a rock and a hard place because Two Towers is not structured in a kind of nice, concise way, the way that Fellowship is. Fellowship is made in a way or written in a way that makes for a good movie.
Yeah.
Two
It has
Towers,
a beginning, middle, and end.
you have to kind of find the movie in Two Towers.
And I mean, he had to kind of skimp it though, because Boromir dies in Two Towers.
Yeah. So like
Yeah.
he had to pull something. So
Mhm.
you already are pulling something away from Two Towers. So like Two Towers kind of got the short end of the stick when it came to the adaptation side of things. I think that he did the best that he could. Now, maybe maybe in a perfect world, something could be better,
Yeah.
maybe. But I think that what we get from this is really good. I mean, these are timeless classics for a reason. I know that the debate will always rage on about are these good adaptations or not. I think that The Two Towers is definitely a worse adaptation than Fellowship of the Ring as far as an adaptation goes, but I think it holds true to the spirit of the books, at least for the most part. My main issue with the adaptation is not so much removing Shelob because that gets pushed. Like we still get that scene in Return of the King. It's mostly that we lose some things in the process. Like we lose some scenes that otherwise were in Two
Mhm.
Towers. That's my issue with it.
I gotcha.
Draco Hunter. I recognize that name. He was our Hobbit man from the beginning of our episode here.
Oh,
We keep disturbing the peace. So
gotcha.
evidently he's found some time to comment on our video here.
Mm.
How do you feel about the change, another change question, from the books where the battle is transformed from a very reasonable strategic move where Rohan can realistically win a conventional siege versus Jackson's portrayal where it is seen as folly from the very beginning and they would have failed without the aid from the elves?
Well, I like the idea that it's like the duality of that, like, Saruman and Sauron are teaming up to defeat all the free peoples of Middle Earth. But all the free peoples of Middle Earth, like, oh, I didn't think that you'd all help each other. No, they all come together and they do help. That it's like, a battle on all fronts. So I guess it doesn't bother me as much.
I think the main thing to add some context to the question is like in the book, when they go, the decision to go to Helm's Deep is like they go there because they can win. Whereas in the movie, they're almost fleeing.
Yeah.
Now they still think that that's the best place.
Yeah,
for
they
them
can
to go
hold up because they can't. Yeah.
Because nobody can take it.
Yeah.
But the main difference I personally don't like between book and movie is that it was Gandalf's suggestion in the book. It was Gandalf's suggestion in the book for them to go to Helm's Deep versus it's reversed in the movie where
Theoden's all about
insists on going there. And Gandalf is telling them, no, like go fight Saruman head on. I think that's kind of a weird suggestion from Gandalf in the movie. Like, why would he suggest that Rohan fight Saruman head on? Like, I know that Gandalf wants, like, they needed an advantage, so to attack Saruman. I think that that's the angle that Jackson was going with.
Yeah.
But if you take it from the book, like going to Helm's Deep is the strategic move. So it makes sense for Gandalf to suggest going there. So Gandalf is kind of saying the same thing in the movie, but they twist it into Helm's Deep is not the strategic move. So that's why Gandalf doesn't suggest it. And that's why he thinks it's folly to go there.
Yeah.
But I think it kind of needlessly complicates things. I wish that Gandalf would have been the one to suggest it because it just shows his wisdom and then they can go there. And then it also, I think, builds the tension a little bit better personally. Jeremy Blore on Mandalore. He just did a fun top 5 action heroes video. That was really fun. Really interesting number 1 choice, by the way. I did not expect his number 1 choice. I won't spoil it. Go check out his video. When Gandalf returns, why does he act so different?
I don't think I think that he's been reborn, and I don't think that he remembers completely his old life. I think that he has to kind of get back into, because again, I think he got touched by, I mean, as he said, a day is, how many lifetimes did he spend there when he was dead? Yeah. So, because how in that quote that you said earlier, where it's like a day there is like the entire lifetime of the planet or whatever. So it's like, how long was he gone? That's what I don't think he can remember. Yeah.
I think that's an aspect of it. And he just has to be more serious. I mean, it's way more serious time. Yeah. He's not hanging out with hobbits, smoking pipe weed. He's,
it's game time.
Yeah. Adam.c.gilbert13, which story do you most enjoy in this film? And second part of the question is, what's your favorite name of Gandalf? Mithrandir is fire. I'll answer the second part first. I love Mithrandir, but I also love Gandalf Stormcrow.
Do you really?
I think it's cool.
Yeah.
Reminds me of Skyrim.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's Nordic, so that's why.
I like the Grey Pilgrim.
Yeah, it's good too.
Yeah.
I mean, all of his names. Mithrandir is probably my favorite. Story you enjoy most in the film? That's tough. I don't know.
I know. I really like the Fellowship. So I think I probably have to go with like the cheesy answer of I like to follow around Legolas, Gimli, and Aragorn. Yeah.
Either them or I like Gollum a lot in this movie. I like seeing what he's up to. But yeah, probably Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas. Yeah. Tia Freza. Shadowfax or Brago?
Brago.
Shadowfax.
Okay.
I made,
No. Bill.
Oh, the wild card.
Yep. Bill the pony.
If I can be convinced by those of you in the comments, when I was in high school, I made a motorcycle commercial for Shadowfax. Yeah. It's the worst thing in the world. I think I still have it. Yeah. Because there was a joke with some of my friends that like Shadowfax was it was like a white Harley Davidson. Gotcha. And so I made a commercial that was like Shadowfax, the meaning of haste. And it was it's so bad. It was like the worst like visual effects you've ever seen. But so if there's enough demand for it, maybe during our live stream, we can watch it. Maybe you could find it. Yeah. But I've always loved Shadowfax. We always used to talk about it. We'd do that whistle. We memorized the tune. And we would do that with some. I used to be on a worship band in high school, and so we would do that. Marcus.Katie, the Silmarillion from Peter Jackson win. Oh, dude, I remember a few years ago when they were teasing that.
No way. Think about how long that would be.
I don't think
Think
that's
about all of it.
especially not going to happen now that Amazon is in Rings of Power.
It's true.
But then
But I
again,
mean-
that's Amazon. It's not Warner Brothers. So
No.
now that they're doing the Hunt for Gollum, maybe if that is really successful,
Maybe.
they come back and do this.
No way. Like,
I could see it happening down the road.
it's so much. Like, how do you do that?
No, I could see them maybe doing it as
Pieces?
like
for a
on,
show?
on HBO Max,
Maybe.
like just doing it on there. I would like that.
Yeah.
Do it with that team. Do it with the same spirit you did Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just that spirit is so hard to find these days.
It's true.
So I don't know. I almost think just don't even bother.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's can't.
But
It'd
if
be
you're gonna
hard
do it-
capturing that lightning in the bottle again.
That's true.
Mhm.
And also the Silmarillion. Gosh, if you think it was hard to adapt Two Towers,
Yeah,
how do you adapt the Silmarillion?
I know.
Ribic_10. How hilarious is that long pause when Aragorn eats his stew? It's good. I think that's funny.
It is great. I like that he burns his hand.
Yeah.
I think it's fun.
Reese's Pieces of Poodoo. Favorite orc kill.
Meat's back on the menu, boys.
And he lops off
yeah, he lops that one dude's head off.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean that one's cool. I was trying to think for a good guy kill. I'm trying to think. I like that old guy that actually lets loose that arrow and
Ooh.
kills that one Urukai. The
Shot her around the world.
Yep, and they all stop and look. Like that's pretty sick.
Gosh, do I have a specific one that I like? Okay, I do. Treebeard stomps on the one dude.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Shadrach? No,
I don't like that guy.
I think that's his name. It's all right.
From our friend star.wars.nerd00. So last week he asked us if these were worth getting into because he had never watched them.
Oh,
He recommended it.
gotcha.
Oh, he asked if we should watch The Hobbit first or
Oh,
Lord of the
okay.
Rings first. And he says, I finished the first two movies and I gotta say they're beautifully made, but I don't think the series is for me. Still going to finish the third movie in your guys' videos, but yeah, as movies, 8 out of 10. Enjoyment for me, 4 out of 10. Man,
It's okay.
it's okay. It's okay
Yeah.
if they're not for you.
Yeah.
They are.
Appreciate you trying.
But here's what I will say, just as a word of encouragement. When I first watched them, they were not for me at first either. I did not immediately fall in love with them. But there are things that if I had to wager, just because you're a Star Wars fan, clearly, and I think there's a lot of themes that kind of cross over, they might linger in your mind for a while, even if you, and maybe a year or two down the road, you'll be like, man, those movies,
Yeah.
maybe I'll watch them again.
I was going to say that, like, it's, as I said last week, that it's like these things I think grow with you and you learn to appreciate them in a different way the older you get.
Ooh, okay, here we go. A question from that galaxy far, far away.
Ooh.
Looking out beyond the Dune Sea. Tyler J. Grubbs 90, what do you think about the Acolyte Season 2 being canceled? The big news out of that galaxy far, far away. We've heard whispers, even though we're far outside.
Yes, murmurs, if you will.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't have much to say other than I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
They're
trying to clean house over there.
You guys know, if you've watched, we have eight whole episodes about it. We weren't the biggest fans of the show.
We tried.
Gave it our all. I didn't want to see it canceled.
Yeah.
I think that I wish that more artists, or rather not artists, but I wish that there was more integrity behind finish what you start. So, but at the same time,
because now that's just a hanging story.
Yeah.
And who knows if we'll
It's
ever
like
even,
Solo.
who knows if we'll ever go back to it.
So there were things like Chimera and Plagueis. I wanted to see where that was going. Although if I had to wager a guess, I think we get that some other way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a bummer. I'm sad to see that, but at the same time, I'm really not surprised. The lower viewership, I mean, it had a massive budget. It's just not a lot of return on investment, unfortunately. And guys, like it or not, I've not seen the fan base so up in arms and riled up
about it. Yeah.
And that's not good either. Any way you slice it.
No.
And yeah, they were bad actors, but they were bad actors. And I don't mean actors in the show. They were bad actors on all sides of that argument.
Yeah.
And it was kind of it was an ugly spot, I think, on the fandom.
Yeah.
As a whole. And I'm not just talking about one side or the other.
Mm-hmm.
It's even that is like, everything's got to be a side these days. It's unfortunate. True. It's been, all I'll say is I'm glad we're in Middle Earth right now because I have not enjoyed watching some of the Star Wars discourse over the past couple of days now that this has been canceled.
Yeah.
It's been kind of sad, actually.
Yeah. No,
So,
I agree that it's weird seeing people be happy that something's not happening anymore, and then it's sad that other people are so upset that something's not going to happen anymore. And it's like, man, just
there was really no road to victory on this one.
No, not really. And so it's just a lot of what's Theoden's quote?
What can you do against such reckless hate?
Yeah,
Indeed. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where granted, it wasn't my favorite thing in the world, but I mean, like, no need to be, acting like that. It's okay.
Yep. Unfortunate. But
It is unfortunate. And I guess, we'll see. I mean,
I just feel mostly bad for some of those actors.
Yes, because I think that some
Manny
people...
Jacinto, gosh, he was just out there at D23 talking about how excited he was, and he's going to be a celebration, and they canceled it on his birthday.
Yeah.
Rough.
I know.
That's unfortunate. Well, hopefully to some happier news here. Sir_Django_Fett. What would be a good what-if scenario for this trilogy? Dude, I always like to think some, like, what if Gandalf got the ring, or like, what if Sauron got the ring?
Yeah. What if they rode the eagles?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a ton of what if scenarios I think that could be cool.
Yeah.
But I guess to play the challenge of without somebody getting the ring, what if Rohan loses Helm's Deep?
Yeah. What if Faramir went instead of Boromir? What if Faramir got to show his merit?
His quality. There you go.
Yeah.
Those are good.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other half to Sir Django and happy official 1 year anniversary.
Thanks.
Just to mess with him a little bit here.
Yeah.
Actually, it's on Sunday. So
rude.
So
thanks, Django.
No, I'm just kidding. So on Sunday, so this releases on Friday. If you're watching this on Friday, thank you for being here during the live premiere. And on Sunday, 2 days from now, August 25th, that is our 1 year anniversary, 1 year of Beyond the Dune Sea. How about that? And we are doing a live stream at 6 p.m. EST. Be there. We're going to have some fun surprises, but the main topic is going to be a watch party of what started it all, A New Hope.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a lot of fun. So we're just going to hang out, interact with the live chat. And like I said, there may be a few surprises thrown your way, a few Beyond the Dune Sea specific surprises. We try
Easter eggs, if you will.
We try not to be too self-referential here on the channel, but hey, if there was a time to do it, maybe now's the time. So
a year of ridiculousness.
So we're going to have a little watch party for A New Hope. That will be on Sunday. And the way we're going to do that, there's no other way to do it, unfortunately. So we're going to kind of do the timer thing. So we'll kind of do maybe a little 10-minute sort of warm up.
Synchronize our watches.
And we'll have you guys all started at a certain time. We'll tell you when that time, on the stream, and we'll all watch it together. We'll react live and kind of hang out. It's going to be such a good time. I will say, just like I said, if you're a fan of the show, be there. There'll be some fun. There'll be one surprise in particular. I think a lot of you guys have been waiting for a little bit. Being a little heavy-handed with that tease, just because I think that you guys will enjoy it.
Yeah.
So, 6 p.m. Sunday, August 25th. We're going to make a special announcement of that on the on Instagram and on YouTube. So you'll probably see that before this video is even out. But we hope to see you there. And then next week, we will return for the return of the King.
Yes.
The final installment of the original trilogy. The only trilogy, the greatest trilogy ever put to screen, in my opinion. And we get to close out this journey to Middle Earth before we head into the Grey Havens.
Yeah.
It'll be great. Really excited. Thank you guys so much for being here. As always, we really appreciate you. You have a question for us about Return of the King that you want to get in early, throw it in the comments down below. And just to throw this out there, because I'm going to put this prompt up probably tonight or tomorrow. If you have a favorite memory from Beyond the Dune Sea, then we might read some of those during our live stream this Sunday. Throw that in the comments down below. We'd love to see those. But as always, guys, thank you so much. See you next week. Same Dune time, same Dune channel.
It's Dune in time.
See you next week.